area school district. Could we have roll call, please?
Mr. Frederick? Here. Mr. Osterman? Here. Mr. Hunt? Here. Ms. Kessler?
Here.
Mr. Moser? Here. Mrs. Strasser?
Here.
Mr. Snyder?
Here.
Dr. Weaver?
Here.
Mrs. Reyes?
Here.
Thank you.
Will you please stand?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do have comments from visitors this evening. Mr. Beechel, yours does say you would wait till the end, but we do just have one area where we require comments. So if you would like to come first, Mr. Dewey is from Montana. His topic to be addressed this evening is science.
So tonight, I'm talking about science. This board says they follow the science when it comes to this COVID-19. So with that said, then that means you will all agree that there are only two sexes, male and female. If you disagree with that statement, then do this. Stand up, walk out of here now, and go get yourself the psychological help that you need. Mr. Moser, being that he is a farmer, can tell you it'd be quite funny to watch you go milk a bull. You'll get milk, but not the milk you want. As my understanding goes, there are children in this school who are trying to identify as domestic animals. And they want litter boxes. As we just identified, this board follows the science, which means children cannot be domestic animals, which also means this district does not need to even consider the idea of putting litter boxes in the bathrooms. I'll tell you this, Mr. Hostman, the reason no one even mentioned about you being gay during your re-election is because nobody cares that you are gay. We will begin to care when you and your buddy Keegan decide that your children, that our children, need to be brainwashed with your gender ideologies. Sex is not for the school to decide when our children learn about it. That is our choice as parents. I personally had a sex education class in my 9th grade year. You want to know what I learned? I learned what a penis is, what a vagina is, and what both parts do. What was not part of that semester was boys can be girls, girls can be boys, and you can be something else, like a domestic animal. Basic biology says you are a male or a female, and you are a human. That cannot be changed. You can cross-dress and appear to be the opposite sex, but no matter what you do, you cannot change basic biology. Science tells you that. If any board member or any member of the administration team allows a teacher to show any student any sexual explicit material prior to sexual education in high school, I will encourage these parents to file charges on each and every one of you for pedophile and the corruption of minors. Because that is what showing a minor sexually explicit material is. The gender ideologies are just as stupid and dangerous as CRT and SEL, or whatever you want to call it. This garbage will not be in this school district as long as I'm in the district. So help me God. See, when I speak, you should fear what I may say. But when I don't speak, you should fear that more. I've been a little busy starting a county organization. I'm the co-founder of the Northumberland County chapter of Moms for Liberty. I'm also the vice president. Now I'm not just one voice, I'm 80,000 voices plus. So Mr. Fink, you should probably start getting the records around because I will be submitting an open records form request for everything in this district in a very near future. When I find what I'm looking for, I will not be asking for you to resign. I will demand it, or I will demand this board to take action before I take legal action for you to be removed. Here is your request.
All right, Amy Gouey. Amy lives in New Columbia, and she would like to talk tonight. A question about survey and policy on entering the building.
Okay, so my first question is about
about surveys that the children have been getting here in the district. I just made aware I don't know if it was the beginning of this week or last week, that the kiddos take surveys. Could somebody please tell me what these are? Do any of you guys know what they are? My understanding is they take them twice a month.
You're talking about the climate surveys?
I don't know what they are. They're just surveys that ask the students lots of questions. I would assume how this topic came about in the household was because me as a parent got one in my email. It was the first time I had ever gotten one. And this survey for me was about questions like, how did I feel as a parent with the district? Did I feel comfortable with the district? Was it a nice atmosphere inside? Did I feel that my kiddo was safe here? Questions like that. Now, do you know what I'm talking about?
I can speak to that survey.
Okay.
Part of Safe Schools is to do what they call climate surveys. They are generated out of the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And there's a survey for students, there's a survey for employees, and there's a survey for parents. I think 2 months ago, the board approved the use of those surveys, and there was a link sent out for individuals to complete those surveys. The other survey that was approved this year by the board was the Pennsylvania Youth Survey, sometimes called the PACE survey. But that, again, would have been earlier on in the year, and that would have been a one-time survey. We do that every 2 years. So those are the two that I can speak to. We use that data to determine how to allocate funding. I use that data quite frequently to write grants for Safe Schools, some of which I'll be speaking about tonight. That data, along with our discipline data, is often required out of Pennsylvania Department of Ed for Safe Schools grants or the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency for their grants.
Okay.
Surveys that you're getting twice a month, I can't speak to that.
I'm just going by what the kiddo said. So I'm not sure, that's why I was asking.
There's a board policy for students to be surveyed that it is board approved. So the two that I spoke to were board approved.
Okay, now I just want to make sure we're talking about the same surveys that is being asked in the school. So I know as far as kiddos are concerned, asking, how their home life is, do they do drugs, guns in the home, are we talking about the same surveys?
So the PACE survey will ask questions about, how secure they are with food. We'll ask about how, I think one of the questions is along the lines of, do you feel sad or upset most of the time, or within the last 12 months you, felt like you weren't good at all. A question could be, do you feel that your teachers care about you? Do you feel safe in the building? You mentioned that one. Do you feel safe in your community?
Okay. Well, I was just kind of curious because I think as a parent, I should have been notified of this and or saw the survey, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, and signed my consent for him to or her to even do it. Number two, my other concern is do the students have a choice to do them or do they have to do them?
It's a choice. Parent information was sent out and parents can opt out of their children taking it. I can certainly follow through and see if we have the correct information in Sapphire for you that you would have received that.
Well, I don't know if I would have because if you did this prior to January of this year, my son was a cyber kid.
Okay.
So I may not have received it. My second question is policy here to enter the district. Can you tell me if there's a policy in place still? I know there was with COVID to enter the building. Is that policy still in place? As a parent?
I can speak to, at one time, our health and safety plan had only essential visitors.
Can you tell me if this policy is still in place as of last Thursday?
It wouldn't have been a policy, it would have been a part of the health and safety plan.
Okay, so parents aren't able to enter the building.
Well, even during COVID, parents were able to enter the building if it was essential. Oftentimes, the secretaries would meet the parent at the door.
That's what I'm talking about, because before January, before my son came back into the district, I know I had to meet with different people, different administrators at the door. I understood that because of COVID and everything. I'm speaking of last Thursday, April the 7th. I was met at the door by bringing my son gym clothes in. The secretary came from the office, met me at the door, took the bag, and went back. Now, I need to know if that's something for me, or if that's being done to all parents.
Well, I can't speak to your specific incident, but I can share an incident today. There was a student having mental health crisis in our office, and there were people at the door, and instead of having the parent or having people coming in to where that situation was occurring, the secretary met the parent at the door. I can't speak to your incident.
Well, this happened to me twice.
Okay,
So I was just wondering, I wanted to make sure that I was aware of policies, and if they changed, I wanted to know if they changed. Okay, thank you.
If I could comment, I took my daughter's swimsuit to her last week because she forgot to take it with her for a whole day for the second graders. I rang the buzzer, the secretary came out, took the bag, went back in, so.
Well, I did contact the elementary schools, and they do that. They told me they did that through COVID. However, Whitebeard said that they don't do that because the office is right there. They opened it up, but since COVID hasn't been, if there was still a policy in place for that.
I'm just saying, me as a board member, I had the same experience as you, so I don't think there's any.
Well, you have to understand, I mean, this was a week prior to me calling into the school, asking some questions, so I needed to clarify it. Okay?
Thank you. We'll move on to the business of the meeting. Executive committee, this evening, we have a couple items to discuss. The first being payment for staff. A couple of weeks ago or so, Dr. Keegan presented that our ESSERS grant funding money did provide an opportunity to provide a stipend to each employee in the district, a $500 stipend. It's allowable expenditure for the ESSERS, and the change to the current ESSERS 3.0 grant that we made. So that's an item that we as a board want to discuss. We have, as far as educators, 181, support staff 91, administrators 13. This includes, among the educators, 2 long-term subs, super subs, and the support staff is inclusive of part-time and full-time staff. The stipend is $500. If we provided that to all employees, it would be a cost to the district from the ESSERS fund, $142,500. Discussion. What are your thoughts on this?
Based on the way that it's written, is that the primary intention for those funds, the way that you receive them? Is it earmarked that way?
It can be reclassified to offer this benefit. What is the initial and the 3 support staff?
Yeah, I'll defer to Dr. Kirkpatrick. It is a classification that the board can use to access the funds. The initial conversations started in collective bargaining. I know that several local school districts have followed through, and they issued a $500 stipend for their employees. And when Mrs. Rance and I were in collective bargaining, the staff raised it as an opportunity for some goodwill after the last 2.5 years of COVID.
And really, that's where I'm going with my comments after the last 2.5 years. And really the fact that we've entered into an agreement that is very agreeable to both sides. I think it's very modest and fair approach.
So we're recoding the funds. What are they currently coded as, and would they currently have been used up in something else, or what would that have been?
Mr. Fink, do you want to respond to that? We identified positions that we believe were directly impacted by COVID, like home and school visitors, social workers, school psychologists, those positions.
I mean, that covers it. It would be essentially pulling out whatever positions would be able to buy that, and then using those funds to pay for the stipend. At the end of the day, because we truly didn't have to wrong, but I do believe we have all of the grants pretty much classified to pay for something over the next year, the year coming up. So we can certainly pay for it with ESSERS, but it does mean that something would then be pulled out and paid for the general budget.
So we weren't leaving any money on the table for the grants. We had that all.
Yeah, correct.
A lot of it was reallocated.
Yes, we would review and look at what would be the most appropriate to then pull out, and then we present that to the board to ensure that that's the process, the route that you would want to take forward. So, but we're not talking about eliminating a position or anything like that. It just would be moving that to be paid for with just the general fund budget aside instead of the grant program.
We're looking at the total amount, it's probably about one position
Right.
between salary and
But in a
benefits.
sense, it's a draw on general fund balance.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a fancy way of saying.
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair statement.
Which, if you recall, last year we had the board reapprove the ESSERS initial funding will come back to the board for ESSERS 2 and ESSERS 3 approval. Just if those funds get audited, that there's a paper trail that will show, although you approved them initially, there'll be a second board motion and then all the invoices of the expenditures so that it could be an easily audited item.
I didn't get a bonus to continue to put up with my job for 2.5 years. I won every day. I'd like a pat on the back, but I can't give myself $500. So that's where I stand. How many people in here got a bonus for going to work? One.
You have something feeling prepared here?
I'm kind of torn on it. 142,000 isn't small money. You know, in the great scheme of everything, we're always looking to reduce where we can. Not that I don't appreciate our staff, I absolutely do. I'm really torn on spending that amount of money. We've already had it allocated somewhere else. The bottom line is we have to pay for it some way.
Do we have the option of a middle ground? Like, is it up to 500? I mean, we're not required to do 500, so we want to do lesser amounts?
letter of referral agreement between the middle school and Concern, agreement between the middle school and Northern Red School District, CSAU computer service rates, and information security specifications for the 22-23 school year, a donation agreement between the Milton Area School District and Jessica and Lila Brass. I was recommending approval to participate in workforce development for off-site construction program and alternative ed program approval. Any questions on?
What's the MOU?
The memorandum of understanding has to do with the carnival, and the board asked that the attorney draft a memorandum of understanding in regards to the proceeds and what that would look like for the benefit of the school district.
Well, our discussion was not to run the carnival under the Milton School District, but they certainly can use the property, but not necessarily earmark the funds for the school district. They can decide what they give to the school district. Correct.
Are you asking about 6A?
6A, I'm asking about 6A, I'm sorry.
I
Concern.
No, 6A, recommend approval of the memorandum.
that would be a that's a personnel map, executive session.
Yeah.
Oh, that is, sorry.
But back on the discussion with Carnival, because that was a discussion, I feel like we left last month without a final decision. We did refer with the attorney and felt that it was a more reasonable way is to not have it be necessarily Milton Area School District Carnival. If the people running it want to provide a donation to the school, wonderful. We're more than happy to accept that donation. But it keeps liabilities, all those other, outward things out of our responsibility. So, we provide them the land.
Correct.
I believe that was at no charge, correct? We would not charge them to use the property.
Yeah, we would.
Right, it was a donation from the school for them to hold the carnival. Any more association with the school would be with them deciding if they want to give proceeds from that carnival to the school. Okay? Everybody understands, and I think it's a cleaner, better way to do that. I'm hearing you, another one I have plenty. Are there any other questions on that? And you're comfortable proceeding under that? Okay. After that was a yes. Okay.
Got it.
So that will be a vote.
Resigned and is serving in a different capacity in another school district. So we were reimbursed for her attendance. On April 5th of this year, the staff member who did attend sent an email to Heidi asking for travel reimbursement for a web conference that she attended at the Inn at St. John's in Plymouth, Michigan. At that conference, 2 staff members attended. It was 3/21/22 to 3/23/22. And we learned that the conference was never presented for board approval. And we learned about it on April 5th when the staff member asked for travel reimbursement. So what you're seeing is the expenditure for that conference in 2022 because it never received original board approval. It looks like the request from the staff member was a mileage reimbursement request to Skytop for $189. That was her initial request, but really if you calculated the mileage they drove to Plymouth, Michigan, it was 446 miles round trip. It should have been around $521.82. They also did not request any reimbursement for meals. Did I miss anything, Mr. Scoggins?
I think you got it correct.
Okay.
Brand new to the board. We want to take care of them from day one. Supervise student behavior, reporting any issues to myself, Mr. Harris, and Mr. Berge. Ensuring that the machines are wiped down, again, keeping them clean, re-rack the weights, maintaining organization. Providing educated coverage for students so that they can oversee the entire facility and be able to offer fitness, strength, conditioning advice to the student athletes as they see them, performing a